Now we have a former General Secretary of the NPP who's a key member of the Bawumia campaign, and he's back in town, and when he comes to town, he has to go and report what he's been doing. So Kwabena Agyepong is joining us. Kwabena, good to have you.
It's a pleasure.
How are you?
Pleasure. I'm very good.
I was telling Fifi that 3 days for an election, he didn't look tired. You also look pretty okay. You guys, how do you do it?
I think the important thing is you have to enjoy what you do. You work hard for your party. You feel that parties are vehicles to serve your country. It is not a life and death matter. I think the NDC and the NPP have had time in opposition and time in government. So that's why I want everybody to be relaxed.
You know each other too well.
The people should take it easy. I remember when I delivered my solidarity message in 2015 as General Secretary. I said, these are the two parties that are likely to run the country for the foreseeable future. So how we treat ourselves, how we conduct affairs, you know, it would enlighten or create more confusion in the electorate. So I think it's important that we send positive messages around. It's time for everybody to go and express their opinion as to who they favor to be president, who they can invest political authority or their future in.
You guys tell us every election is different. And I don't want to start from 92, but it seems to me as if at least from 2012 to 2016, these are 3 distinctly different elections. For you as the NPP, again, correct me if I'm wrong, this looks like the most difficult, and I'll explain. 2012, you were in opposition. Okay, you had lost another election in 2008. You were in opposition against a party that was in its sort of first four years, so it was going to be difficult. 2016, 8-year opposition, you swept to victory massively. And then, of course, 2020, you held your own. So, but how different is this 2024 one?
2 things. I think our candidate is a unique candidate. First time in the history of this country, and especially for us, our political tradition, to elect a northern Muslim as our leader. You know, and this is the propaganda tool that our friends of the NDC, they have used since 1992. You know, try to stereotype us and pigeonhole the NPP as an Asante party, not even an Akan party sometimes, and made us very difficult to campaign in certain parts of our country. So as you can see from your map, we're locked up in the middle belt in this country. And this shows that our party is not an Akan party, that it doesn't matter whether you are Ewe or you are Nzima or Mamprusi or Dagumba, it does not matter. If the electorate feel that you have the oomph to be able to lead them, that they can trust you with their future, they will do so. And I think it's based on the record of Dr. Bawumia. He has exhibited such finesse, you know, interpersonal skills. He's been a nice person. He's very humble, very respectful. Even the way he conducted himself immediately after the election, visiting everybody, every one of us, cobbling together.
The primaries.
Yes, the coalition. So there's reasonable harmony in the party. And you talked about we swept 2016 because we had a harmonious internal primary. And I think by and large, this year's primary have been reasonably harmonious. Only a few hot spots here and there. And so anytime we have such primaries, we are likely to win the parliamentary election. And then the presidency comes as a bonus. So the fact that he's going to be able to eat into the core support of the NDC, you know,
it's a strong advantage for him.
A strong advantage for him. So we are now fighting the NDC on their turf. Places where Bono East, which were no-go areas. I mean, I think we will claim some seats there. I do believe we'll do better in the north. We will beat them in the north.
So your non-traditional, the places you've not been doing well, you believe you will get it into their advantage there.
We'll do better.
But will you hold your strongholds?
That's for certain. That's for certain. We will hold our stronghold on the record that we have displayed over the last 8 years. So we are very confident. Elections in this country are always going to be a close call because these are 2 big parties. It's historic. The UP tradition, now the NPP, is the CPP that has been taken over by the NDC, unfortunately, you know, and so that's what it is. So I've always said, from my political experience, the NDC is always guaranteed 44–45% core support. The NPP, 47–48 core support.
You give yourself like a 3 percentage point advantage.
And you can see all the...
Actually, the graph will show that.
I don't like polls, but whichever way you look at it, you would see that. And we always need 3-4% to travel.
Yeah, there's a residual advantage.
Yeah.
So when they win, it's narrower.
That's
when
right.
you win, it's bigger.
It's bigger.
Yeah.
And so it is the apathy sometimes in the internal party process that really works against us. I mean, in 2008, we had been empowered. Mr. Kufuor had delivered quite reasonably, but people had become swollen-headed, complacent, fighting over parliamentary positions. Several parliamentary candidates, you know, and it cost us the election because Nanado was leading Professor Mills by 103,000 votes in the first round, mind you. But because the parliamentary election had been lopsided, about 7-8 parliamentary candidates who were favorable to us, but we couldn't count them as our candidates. And so the propaganda that, look, they won the parliamentary election at the presidency, I think it caught a bit of fire, and we lost marginally. I mean, our friends in Nigeria,
it was very close,
who called me and said, Kwabena, so we can't add 23,000? How can
Ghana is not like that.
I said, in Ghana, we don't do things like that. And that's why we want to assure everyone that we are not the party that steals elections or, you know, will strong-arm people. We want to have a decent election. Our tradition is the tradition that can be credited for the electoral reform in this country, starting from 93 up to date. And I think progressively, elections have become better. And now with the media,
more transparent.
I have been impressed, Bernard, with the sophistication of the media, the brutal competition.
We're also growing.
You are competing more than the political
I tell you,
parties.
there's a final point before we go to the map. Globally, there seems to be an anti-incumbency sentiment. Let me explain. After the 2022 financial crisis, a lot of governments have fallen. So US, UK, Senegal, Brazil, Mexico, apart from India, most incumbents are falling, and a lot of people attribute it to the inflation of 2022, hard cost of. So basically, people are angry with government.
The global crunch.
Yes, and they are punishing government.
Incumbents.
So it's a global wave. You are aware of this.
That is why you have to give Dr. Bawumia so much credit, because we ourselves, I mean, there's not every detail I can give you, but we know where we stood in February, and I can tell you, he has been grinding the ground. He put boots on the ground, stepped all the 276 constituencies.
All 276.
Worked very hard, delivered, spread across stakeholder engagements, youth connect, community connect, going into the markets, visiting people in their homes. This has been the most elaborate election campaign I have seen. I've worked with the professor.
And that's coming from you.
That's right.
You're serious. This is the most elaborate.
Yes. And
by elaborate, you mean what?
I mean, it's been well articulated, prosecuted, according to plan.
Wow.
Day by day, extracting those that he has to come back to Accra for official business. Mind you, he's still the vice president. So all
mixing all of that.
And if you look at the fact that he was elected November 4th, some clear, about 7-8 clear months after his main opponent, John Mahama.
So today's actually a year.
Yeah.
Today's 4 December, right? So a year since he was.
No, it's a year and a month.
A year and a month. Yeah, November. Yeah, a year and a month.
And I'm saying that John Mahama had a leeway of about 8 months. And Bawumia could organize his campaign so meticulously, have a first round visiting all the 16 regional capitals, and no presidential candidate has organized stakeholder meetings, which brought together the clergy, the Muslims, the Christians, the traditional religion, the chiefs, the Zongo chiefs and all that, artisans, teachers, nurses, tailors, miners, everywhere, farmers. And that he listened to them before he started his own program. And so he delivered his manifesto earlier and then adored his running mate. So it shows somebody who is prepared to govern. He's more serious, although he's in government. He didn't say he was going to sit on his incumbency. He recognizes what you have said, that incumbents had been punished across the world because of the crunch. And I think that's what has endeared him to the people. His just appetite for hard work. It's
been a quite grueling. I was surprised to hear 3 years ago he was back in Ashanti. I was like,
No, because there were some 2 constituencies that we missed.
Okay.
And then 3 in Volta because he's a vice president. There was an emergency.
So you had to make up for that.
It. Yes. So
you combined OT, Eastern and Ashanti in one.
Because we had the Koforidia area. The new job in North and South had not been touched. We had done all of that, and then a front plane. So he hopped there, did it all, and the vitality that he's shown, the energy, you know, it has recreated the enthusiasm of the party base. So that apathy that, you know, has disappeared. Everybody is so energized, and people are now focused, and they are determined to roll out there, come out and vote come Saturday.
He spent 32 days or so in Ashanti, if I'm not mistaken. So I think 3 weeks.
No, because people forget that Ashanti is no Kumasi. And there are 47 constituencies. I was with him throughout, you know, and we're doing 3 constituencies in a day. If you do 3, you need 16 regions. You need 16 days to be able to do 48. There were a few that we did 4 in one day, you know, and speaking engagements, you know. So he's really worked hard, and I believe that that hard work will pay.
Your opponent, I spoke to him, he says NPP usually does Ashanti engineering. When I showed him the Ashanti map, and then the fact that Bawumia spent a lot of time there, it's almost like you realize that across the country there isn't much support, and therefore you're putting a lot of energy in Ashanti. What's your response to that?
They got it wrong. I've heard them say, "Oh, why is he spending 15 days?" It was a constituency-based campaign.
Okay.
He wanted to treat the 276 constituencies equally.
Okay.
You could listen to what he was saying. He wants a broad-based campaign, and that's what he wanted to offer everyone time. It doesn't matter whether it's a whole central where we don't normally do too well, or a Bantama. You know, he treated Ghana as the same, and I think it is very good. Because
is that a good idea?
It's a good idea. He's had the time, the energy, the strength, the verve to be able to do that. And Ghanaians want a leader who has vitality, who has energy, who can energize the base and lead by example and show an appetite for hard work. It's very important. His public-spirited nature and his empathy for the underprivileged and the people with disabilities and the policies that he has outlined has touched various segments of society. Okay. So we are very confident.
Final point before we go to the map. As a communicator, some people think sometimes it's good to have one central theme.
Yes.
I noticed because he's talking about different things. So preserve PSHS, digitalization, and my integrity as a person. So there are different touch points.
That's right.
Sometimes you are not really sure what the key thrust, because as I said, because there's a global anti-incumbency feeling, opposition doesn't have too much work to do than to simply say the current person is the same as those who caused all the problems for you.
That's right.
But for you, how have you been able to craft the key message?
Research shows that people vote for a variety of reasons.
Okay.
So yes, sometimes it may be good on a core message.
Yeah.
But these are exceptional circumstances.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two, he has a central theme about focusing on agriculture and looking at the value chain. So he talks about support for agriculture, creating these district agri-mechanization centers as common user facilities to support commercialization of farming and also more technological advanced farms. And then looking at the tree crops, like rubber, like cashew, like shea nut, like mango, like palm, you know, and treating it the way we treated cocoa. You understand? So those are messages that he took across, especially in the farming areas. Really went hard on that. So every sector of the society had something to bite on. And that's what makes his message so attractive. And people trust him. They believe that, one, he hasn't had the opportunity to be president.
Yeah.
John Mahama has had his opportunity, didn't handle it, was kicked out in a historically big vote. And he hasn't had the opportunity. And I do believe that, yes, it's good politics for the NDC to heap everything on Dr. Bawumia. But John Mahama knows better than most the difference between being a vice president and a president. There's a sea of difference. You understand? And I believe that even if Nanado, the constitution has allowed him to have another term, there will be dramatic changes to what he has done over the last 2 years. Yes, he's built a strong foundation, but there are areas that Dr. Bawumia wants to change. Imposing order and discipline in financial management, value for money for government procurement, slashing the size of government. Let people know that he wants to lead by example. When he says we should tighten our belt, I was looking at 54 ministers. He says 50. I still disagree with him on that one, but he's the boss. You know, so he's going to be significantly different. You know, when he talks about restoring professionalism and meritocracy to the public services especially.
Yeah.
There are a lot of state entities, especially the technical ones, that will do with less political tinkering. You understand? People grow in the job, they have the institutional knowledge, and although the Constitution allows the president to appoint the top, sometimes we've gone down to second level, and sometimes even...
It's too much.
It's too much. And we all realize that it's not the best for our country. And those are things that...
So he wants to define himself.
Yes.
Even though he was Nanado's vice president,
number two,
he believes that he can carve a niche for himself.
That's right. That's why he talks about leading us in a new chapter. I spoke about a new dawn.
Yeah.
I think a new chapter is quite like a new dawn.
We'll take a break. When we come back, just do a quick walk around the country in terms of the changing electoral map of the country and how confident the NPP is about their chances. Stay with us. So as I did with the NDC General Secretary, I want to speak to Kwabena Agyepong about the electoral map of Ghana. And if you just tuned in, I'll just show you this quickly. I'm using 3 most recent elections just to make the point that in 2012, when NDC did very well, Upper East, Upper West, Savannah, North, all the way to Volta, very green. And NPP are just 6, 7 sprinkles in the north, right? 1, 2, 3 down here in the Eastern Corridor, 3 here and 1 here. NPP's strength is Ashanti, Bono, Eastern. That's basically the strength in 2012. Then you come to 2016, which Kwabena Agyepong calls the tsunami. And that tsunami was so serious that even in Upper West, there were some blues. The blues have now increased from 6 to about 8, 10-ish, right? And then the whole of the Bono side is gone, even some western inroads in the corners, right? So the country was really, really strong MPP. 2020 seems to have sort of come down the middle lane. And this is where we are with, the blues have sort of coalesced towards the northeastern side. NDC has reclaimed Upper East and Upper West. The Agash in the middle is still strong. A few roads in Bono for them as well. And then western to a few things. So Kwabena, this is, what's, my observation is that you've sort of strengthened up here.
Yeah.
And it's been deliberate.
Yes. And apart from that, now that we have a candidate from that area, that's his...
Oh, so this was not because of him. Some people attribute this to him. That he was running it from, I think, 2008.
From 2008.
So they said some of this is him.
Of course, you have to give him the credit for that. But I think now that he's on top of the ticket, he's more attractive to the north. There's no doubt at all about that. And again, I mean, he had a very interesting way of putting it. Look, the 2 major candidates are from the north. One can be there for only 4 years. He can be there possibly for 8 years. And the country is big. And when the north captures it, maybe the next time that the cycle returns, maybe some decent, interval. So I think most of them believe that if indeed you are going to look at the north, then they'd rather have put their chances on someone who can be there for 8 years than 4 years. So that is going to be strengthening us. And then if you look at all the areas that are green, even the strong areas that the NDC have in the blue areas, those are the areas of a lot of the Zongos where we do very badly. You understand?
So you think beyond the north, he has something to say about some of the greens?
Oh, yes.
Where settler communities have been, you think so?
Because they identify with him. He's one of them. He's also a minority. You understand? They identify with him. And apart from that, he has helped a lot. I think he's used his office as vice president in a very humane way. Mahmoud has been someone who's helped people, Christians and Muslims. Even my church, he touched my church when he visited the church. The kinds of sacrifices, the way he's shared what God has blessed him with in the Muslim community, in the Zongo communities, sponsoring people to medical education in Cuba and supporting some of the imams to have their pilgrimage to Mecca. He has done a lot of work. And as we go around, the chiefs and the clergy, they tell us, they give us testimony of the kind of support he has given people. And I think that will play very big.
Okay. But now let's talk about the Greater Accra.
Greater Accra.
Because, when I check the map, there's a map behind you, which you may not be able to see. It's now the largest region in terms of population.
That's correct.
I think it overtook Ashanti in 2020. So about 3.7 million. 13 of the 20 biggest
are here.
Now, the challenge is that this anti-incumbency thing, it tends to be strong in the capital city.
It's more pronounced.
Good. So even though the gap between the two parties was just 73,000 in 2020, there's a sense that NDC starts with an advantage in this region. and that if there are people turn out to vote and the incumbents supporters are apathetic, then the gap could be much bigger. What are your thoughts on Greater Accra?
That is a possible scenario, but I can tell you, with the work that Bawumia has done so far, and the delivery of projects to the coastals, I mean, Jamestown has had a new harbor, Nungua, the landing sites in Mumford, across. This government has delivered a lot of work, Elmina and all that, and people feel it, you understand? And so I don't think the margin, if people take it for granted, we will do much better in Greater Accra than people think. And you know that he's also a minority, he's a Mampusi. He's not an Ashanti or an Akan.
So some of the anti-NPP sentiments may not necessarily be there. You
That's
think
right.
So?
And he would do much better in the Volta region as well.
You think so?
And there's a huge Volta contingent in Greater Accra, mind you.
Yes, yes,
mind
yes,
you.
Yes,
and they love Bawumia. You understand? So Greater Accra, yes, is always tough. It's hugely metropolitan. That's where the economy bites the most. People have to pay rent.
So you do admit that the anti-government sentiment in the region,
of course,
is strong.
That,
how do you see Central?
But we have a strong base here.
Okay.
The Greater Accra, there's a strong base of the NPP. And our base, once our base turns out, and I'm encouraging them.
You will not be walloped.
No, at all.
You will not be walloped in the region.
No, to be, if even they defeat us, to be marginal.
You don't, yeah.
So I think Greater Accra is a place where nobody can dominate.
You notice your base is coalesced towards the western side.
That's right.
And then they sort
of course, but
yes.
But fortunately, the Adans and the Seges don't have the population.
Yes. So you're right. The numbers are more in the middle.
That's right.
Yes.
In 2012, if you looked at the previous slideshow that you had, we used only 2 regions to virtually fight off the rest of the country.
Yes, you did.
So it's the population. So
okay.
Where we are strong, we are very strong. And in Greater Accra, we are very strong. And our people will turn out and vote. And if you add that to what Dr. Bawumia himself will be able to commandeer in the Ashamans of the world, the Nimas of the world, the Accra New Town, and the Sukura, where he can also get in there. He's got support in there.
Central region baffled me a bit because the Akufo-Addo won the region, but the NDC got the parliamentary majority. Because
there was a lot of, and there's still, unfortunately, we're trying to talk to our people.
Yeah.
There are a lot of internal problems in Central region. It's not been easy. But I think Dr. Bawumia has been able to lead them into some coalition of a sort. People are working together. They were probably, remember,
that's the fact that his main opponent in the primaries is from there.
That's right.
That created some of those problems too.
And the overhang.
Yeah.
People, forgetting about the fact that now he's the elected candidate, let's all work together for him. And sometimes, again, it's internal politics. So when people win, they over-celebrate. And it bruises the egos of some of the supporters, or the party people who may not have supported him. And it can, can lull them into a certain sense of apathy. But we've worked hard in this campaign. I do believe that in Central region, it's also another toss-up. But it's a region that, fortunately, our candidates this time around are very active, very young, very attractive, and they are local people. And I think that local affection will give us a good difference in the Central region.
Will you get the advantage in the Western region? And I ask this because
Western is
it's been you did your manifesto in launch there, but you know how the map works, right?
Western is always very tough.
Yes,
it's always very tough from time immemorial. But we will do well in the presidential and maybe win a few seats back with the parliament.
Because you did suffer parliamentary there.
Yes, we did because of the propaganda our friends used with the Galamsey issue. But now I think that going around, the miners don't see us as a threat to them because Dr. Bawumia's proposal is exciting. He says you get a geological survey to get people to be more serious and focused on where they mine, and it should not be just trial and error and destroying the environment. And it's not that he's against them, but he wants to make them millionaires, but in a right, sustainable way, so we don't destroy our forest reserves and our rivers. So I think that Western region, we've got some very decent, good candidates. Sometimes it's a selection of the candidates.
And that tends to affect the presidential.
That's
because
right.
If the candidate is not like...
There's a huge migrant community in Enche, Swaman, and we've tactically selected good candidates.
So you think that some of the residual
yeah.
advantages NDC gets?
Yeah, it won't happen now because some of our candidates are also migrants. And you see, that's how we've been able to make Akontomra a strong place. Tete is a Krobo, you know, but there's a big Krobo community there.
Yeah.
You understand? So these things, sometimes you have to work it in a very subtle way, in a very decent way.
You are an election engineer, so let me come and wrap up with you and ask you,
right.
because you're an engineer who's been doing elections for a long time, General Secretary before this. Some people are saying this election will go into a second round and that type of thing. I know you have various scenarios, but would you be surprised if anybody won it in the first round?
Not surprised. In fact, I hope it doesn't. First, because the cost to the treasury is
you don't want second round?
I don't. I don't.
You don't want second round?
And I think every Ghanaian by now knows that it is between Dr. Bawumia and John Dramani Mahama. And I do think that when they weigh them, they would give the balance of doubt to Dr. Bawumia. One, because you see, this election, the way it is, and the way the population is, if you look at the dynamics and the demographics, Mahmoud, the Vice President, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has shown a certain deep knowledge of what it takes to move this country to a new era. A certain understanding of the global world, the technological movement that is happening. And he has already, as Vice President, championed a lot of major interventions that has changed the lives of Ghanaians. I mean, we may take it for granted, like mobile money interoperability. Today, you can sit here and do a lot of things on your phone that in many countries you cannot do. And that has impacted the lives of Ghanaians. He's restored Arabic teacher allowances, nursing allowances, teachers allowances. So people identify with him. So I'm very confident that the measures, and again, you see, he's someone who reaches into the future. When he talks about removing the credit, the cash economy and replacing it with the credit economy. Some people don't understand it, but all over the world, Bernard, you see your friend in UK says, I've bought a house.
Credit. They have good credit.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the kind of system we need to build. He has a dream. It may not be achievable even in his first term, but the dream is that all over the world, when you have a job, you should be given an opportunity to enjoy the facilities and use your working life of about 30 years to pay it down. You know, that reduces corruption. People are not under pressure to go and do something untoward at the workplace to buy a plot or a house. If he has a car, he can pay, you know, over a 6-year period. That the fact that he brings this kind of idea shows that he's somebody who is intellectually deep. Wow. You know, he's intellectually deep, and I think when you place them, you realize that this someone.
I wanted a headline from you, but you said something that it would be a good headline. You said you wouldn't be surprised if there's a second round, but you hope not.
No. Yes.
So you are not putting all your eggs in one basket.
No. See, something has happened which is we should look at. For the first time in elections in this country, the smaller parties have not featured.
Not that much.
No.
But they've actually been declining in their numbers.
Yeah.
Some even say this year they're more prominent because they're doing TV adverts. because now they've done. I've seen Kofi Apalo, I've seen Ayariga, I've seen Alan, and I've seen Cheddar do TV adverts.
Yes, but I'm just saying that if you look at their work on the ground, boots on the ground,
yes.
you can see everybody knows that you don't need to waste your vote. It has to be one of the two, and I believe the majority will trust their future, invest their future in Dr. Bawumia.
I hope to talk to you soon. Hopefully,
when we are smiling.
Whatever happens, Ghana wins.
Oh, of course.
So for us,
definitely. I think that's very important.
Yeah.
I want to encourage everybody. It's not life and death.
Yes.
The NDC has been in power before. We have been in power before. We are in power, although I have not been in power for 8 years.
Thank you, Kwabena. Good to see you. Good luck.
It's
Good
a
luck
pleasure.
to you.
It's a pleasure.
We'll be right back and speak to the head of the UN agencies in Ghana, Charles Abani, for his view as an observer. Stay with us.